Good afternoon, Mr. A. This is Jan Wells, and I'm going to name you these 25 parts of my skull. I'm going to start out with the frontal bone, which makes up the front part of our skull as well as our forehead. Posterior to the frontal bone are our parietal bones, which are on either side of our head. Inferior to our parietal bone are the temporal bones on either side. That side and this side. In the back of the skull is the occipital bone, right along here. Coming back to the front again, we have some sutures. Now, the suture that joins the frontal bone with the two parietal bones is called the coronal suture. It goes along here. The sagittal suture joins the two parietal bones. It goes along here. The squamous suture is on either side and connects the parietal bone with the temporal bone on either side of the skull. And in the back is the lambdoid suture, and this joins together the parietal bones with the occipital bone. Comes down like this and like this. Down here and down here. Coming back to the front of our skull, once again, we have our cheekbones, which are right along here. And those are formed by the zygomatic bones. Right along here is our nasal bone on either side. This forms like the bridge of our nose, right along here. Below this and below our nose is the maxilla. It actually comes up around here. And the maxilla also contains the upper part of our teeth, the upper set of teeth. Below the maxilla is the mandible bone. This is the largest bone in our head. And on either side, right here and right here, are mental foramen, and they are actually canals that through which blood vessels and nerves pass to nourish our teeth. If we turn the skull to the side, this forms our jawbone, and this part of the mandible is called our ramus, the ramus. At the very top of the ramus is the mandibular condyle. That fits into the mandibular fossa of the temporal bone, and that creates the temporal mandibular joint. That's the only freely moving joint in our head. That again is right up in here. Now, another bone that we can see a little bit of on the outside of the skull is the sphenoid bone on either side. There and over here. And that forms our temples. When we speak about our temples, that's the part of the sphenoid bone right there. But most of the sphenoid bone is actually inside the skull. Sphenoid bone is a very interesting bone. It's also called the butterfly bone. And I'm turning the skull up like this. This is the front part of the skull. This is the back part. And the sphenoid bone looks like a butterfly. These are the lesser wings of the sphenoid bone. And the greater wings are right beneath them. There are two canals right here called the optic canals. One is there and one is there. And lateral to the optic canals and just a little bit inferior are the superior orbital fissures. Right along here and here. Now in the center of the sphenoid bone is the sella turcica. And within the sella turcica is housed the pituitary gland. If we go forward of the sphenoid bone to the ethmoid bone, which is right here, there is a ridge right here. And this ridge is called the crista galli. And that ridge is an attachment point for the dura mater, which is one of the meninges that surrounds and protects the brain and the spinal cord. At the base of the crista galli are the cribriform plates, and those are several foramina through which the olfactory nerves pass. If we come to the front of the skull again, there is a little point right here, right in the middle of our forehead, right here between the supraorbital margins, and that is called the glabella. And on either side of that, not quite halfway between each supraorbital margin, is a small canal, and that is the supraorbital foramen. And through that passes the nerves and the blood vessels for our forehead. Finally, if we turn our skull around, at the base of our skull, in the occiput, is the foramen magnum. This is the external view. This is the internal view looking down. And this is where our brain and our spinal cord join. Thank you very much.